Thank you for joining us here today, Representative Miller. We understand you're working on a bill to clarify and modernize the taxation of digital assets. I was hoping you could give us, any updates on status. How's it all going?
Absolutely. As you guys probably have seen, the government hasn't been open in a couple of months, which means that we've been taken back a little bit in terms of our legislation. But right now, we are working on a draft proposal, and we are working across the aisle with a few Democrats on the Ways and Means Committee when it comes to the taxation of crypto. So we aren't as far along as we would like, not because of the work that we've been doing, it's because of just the standstill of government, unfortunately, due to the shutdown.
Do you expect the bill to be introduced as a standalone measure, or would this be part of a broader cryptocurrency package?
So I would really like this bill to be brought in and through as a standalone measure. I believe that it deserves that. It deserves the attention. We're talking about life changing and country changing into the digital age instead of the analog economy and taxation of where we were. And I believe that is really special, and it should be highlighted throughout a standalone piece of legislation. Now, that being said, I will get a piece of legislation through however I can. And so if there is another avenue in order to attach this piece of legislation on any major package that is going through, and if there is the appetite by members of Congress, both in the House and Senate, to make sure it can get through in that fashion, then I would take a look at that as well.
We've heard a lot today about the market structure bill. Do you believe that the taxation bill is dependent upon the passage of the market structure bill, either the House or the Senate version, or can this kind of proceed independently on its own timeline? And if the latter, does Congress have the bandwidth to intelligently work on both pieces of legislation at once?
So I definitely think, regardless of what people say, that we can walk and chew gum at the same time, okay? So, that is something that we as members, and a lot of us, most of us, I'd say 95% can do on both sides of the aisle. When it comes to the market structure and everything that you were bringing up, I'm just gonna lose my train of thought. I believe that at the end of the day, it should proceed with its own timeline, and we can get there just moving, together when it comes to it down the road.
Getting into the substance of the bill for the moment, when you think about the proper taxation of digital assets, do you analogize them to other asset classes and say, okay, in this provision we should treat crypto like securities, in this provision we should treat crypto like commodities, in these places we should treat crypto like cash? Or do you say this is a new and unique asset which should have more of its own bespoke rules in each instance, so it's not so much matching up to existing tax treatments as creating entirely new ones?
Well, I think that, so what we're trying to achieve here is clarity and parity with the tax structure and the tax code on that front. And we're going to see many things like a wash sale rule, which will be put into place, which is typical within the regular stock trading that we see now. That's just going to be put when it comes to cryptocurrency. That makes sense. There are many things that we can take from the current tax code that's out there and apply to cryptocurrency. But there's also other things that we're going to have to take a look at. Now, whether it's a commodity or a security, I believe that question for the most part has been answered within Congress, or how people view that, but it is up to us to go ahead and to implement this framework in a pragmatic way.
When you think about how the bill will be laid out, would you create one set of definitions for cryptocurrency, for digital asset, for stablecoin that would apply throughout the tax code, or will this be something where those definitions have different meanings in different provisions? So that may seem like an odd question, but the reason I ask is if you say to a tax lawyer now, how do you define security? Their answer is going to be under what code section, because you can find 7 different definitions in the code depending on how it's used. So will cryptocurrency mean cryptocurrency, throughout, or is this going to be a bit flexible, if you will?
So for the most part, it's going to be cryptocurrency throughout, but to give you a little bit of faith, trust, and confidence about how we're approaching this, which is different than I feel like what a lot of other people would do in offices and working across the aisle in this fashion, is that we're actually listening to you in industry, right? If you look at my background and how I came up and really knowing about cryptocurrency, it was in my first term, which was just like 5 days ago, but last term, it was on the Agricultural Committee, right? And I was on the subcommittee of digital commodities, and I oversaw FIT 21 because we have some jurisdiction, as you know, on ag, and I was working with Chairman McHenry as well as Chairman Thompson. And when we got on the Ways and Means Committee, we saw this avenue in order to move forward with it. And you asked an earlier question, and I just want to address it. Can this move forward without, say, like the Clarity Act, which is stuck in the Senate, being moved forward? To answer that question, it can, and that is what we are, seeking right now. I want this to be crafted out of our committee in the House of Ways and Means, and I will tell you why. In the short time that I've been on this committee and throughout reconciliation, I believe that everything that has come out of our committee has been pragmatic. There has been some serious thought that has been put into it, and I believe that if we don't take this opportunity right now to move forward with this and to actually listen to all of you, take your thoughts, your questions, anything that you may have. My background, isn't in cryptocurrency. And so we're doing everything we can to listen to industry, listen to our constituents. 1 in every 5 Ohioans owns cryptocurrency. You should have seen the look on my colleagues' faces when I said that in the Ways and Means room when we had lunch. I mean, this is what I'm talking about, a generational gap in moving to the digital era and age as opposed to the analog where we currently are.
So what constituent or what issue first came up that flagged for you the importance of modernizing and clarifying cryptocurrency taxation? I mean, this is something that as tax lawyers, of course, it comes up naturally. People come to us with these questions all the time. But in your setting, was there one particular incident, if you will, that drove this? And on the personal level, do you regularly use cryptocurrency either as a payment medium or as an investment?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it came to just, cryptocurrency in general, when I got on the Ways and Means Committee, and I just explained, the little familiarization that I was previous on the Ag Committee, there's no one leading the tax on it. And we're talking about a major financial institution that FIT 21 was just passed last term, and the CFTC and the SEC with clarity being stuck up in the Senate. I believe that, in terms of the regulation aspect, that would make it easier to tax. I believe that this is such a great opportunity that no one has really just seen, that has been laying in front of us the entire time. This is, a huge bipartisan issue. When we saw it in this Congress, the only one who was really hostile toward it that I had seen in my, time either as a member or as a staffer was really President Biden and his administration and the tack that they took when it came to cryptocurrency. But I will tell you that in the House, this is a very good conversation we're having with 3 or 4 members who are Democrats on the committee, and we believe that we can get this thing through by hopefully next August. It would be our timeline.
So speaking to the bipartisan nature of this, as you reach across the aisle and speak with both Republican and Democratic representatives, do you see significant differences in how Republicans versus Democrats view cryptocurrency or the taxation thereof? Or is this more of an issue where this is such a first blush, first time I've thought about this for 90% of the representatives, that kind of no one really has entrenched views on either side of the aisle?
Yeah, I got to tell you, Congress, and as you have seen over the last few years, has been a very contentious place on many different levels and things. And it's very rare that we get an opportunity or a piece of legislation where we can really just have substantive conversations. And we're having that with this bill. We are sitting down and having substantive conversations, not going at each other's throats, but figuring out a way that works for their side and that works for our side. And we aren't going to stop until we have, the best final product that we can. But that's one of the most beautiful things about this, and why I like engaging, especially on this piece of legislation, is that it hasn't been met with the aggression and such force by the opposite side. And we've really done a great job working well together and haven't run into too many roadblocks. And it's my hope, within a certain time frame soon, that we will get, and have an announcement about our co-lead who will be on the committee to sort that out. So.
While not looking for any promises or even necessarily predictions about exactly how the final bill will read, if you had to say for yourself personally, what are your top 3 must-have changes, either to fix the rules or to provide clarity in the rules? What would those be? What's the top priorities that you definitely want to see in the final version?
Yeah, without question. Definitely going ahead and defining mining and staking, right? I believe that that's incredibly important. Mark to market, which we've talked about before, and looking at the de minimis aspect. I think all 3 of those things are very important when we looked at cryptocurrency and how we're going to move this framework moving forward, and hopefully if and when it will become law, before August of next year. But overall, why am I doing this? Why am I focusing on this? It's to provide all of you, and it's to provide my constituents and all the Ohioans, 1 in 5, with clarity and parity in the tax code. I want to make your lives easier. I want industry to go ahead and succeed, and I believe that if we do not go ahead and see the generational gap that we're facing right now with other countries in terms of cryptocurrency, that we will, not be first. And I can't stomach seeing China or anyone else continue to move forward and to take these things from us when we have it right here. And I believe that the American people have seen it with the use and now stablecoin being the cash equivalent, which I think is going to be very helpful throughout the country and for small businesses who are getting, dinged on the couple of percentages that are out there. This is where I think it's going to end up going. So.
Thank you so much. So for those of us who've been working in the digital asset tax space for a while, we see the questions ranging from the foundational, such as how should staking or mining be taxed, into the highly nuanced in a given fact pattern where, should cryptocurrency be treated as a passive asset in this particular provision? While I'm sure you're addressing a broad range of topics in this bill, is this meant to be the final comprehensive word from Congress on cryptocurrency, or is this kind of the first salvo, knowing that things will have to continue to evolve? In other words, with this bill, are we just laying the foundation? Are we putting the final coat of paint on the walls, or are we somewhere in between in the construction process?
Yeah, I wish that anything we could author in Congress would be the first salvo, including a lot of the big bills we've passed, this term and last term. But the way I look at this is, crypto is constantly going to be evolving, right? Like AI. And there's a reason why, it has taken people a little bit longer than usual in order to regulate the industry. It's because, people like me want to see what it can do at its full potential without being overbearing to the economy and things of that nature. And so, I believe that altogether, we've done a very good job in seeing that through. But, no one wants to put so many regulations in that it's going to harm the industry moving forward. But finding a good middle ground, I believe, will be a good answer that we can see.
That makes perfect sense to me. And of course, anything you're doing new questions will come up as the constituents start to look at and read and react to what's been in the first bill. And so,
sadly, I can tell you, just being very real and direct, there are, I won't say them out loud because Nick will kill me and my team, but there are a few pieces of policies and legislation that we've passed in the Working Families and Tax Cut Plan that we have to go back and fix. And I could just tell you one that, isn't a high priority. I want to make clear for anybody, but you do hear about it back home. I just hope you don't bet on the Cleveland Browns because you're going to lose. But if you're a gambler out there, right, I'm just saying, if you lose, you pay 90% of your losses in taxes, right? To me, I don't think that that's such a good thing to do on the American people, but that has to be revisited amongst several other things. So this will always be constantly evolving in Congress, if we have smart, pragmatic leaders who can see how the industry and working with all of you guys can work together and make sure that we're keeping up with the trends and not being beat by other countries around the world.
Now, a few minutes ago, you mentioned the de minimis threshold. I know we just have a few minutes left here, but if you don't mind me asking, how are your views around that? Is this to make this more functional where people are not tagged into tax reporting for tiny amounts? Is this to simplify the IRS's ability to administer these rules? Like, what's the driver for the de minimis exceptions, and how do you think about what the right level might be for that?
So the level, I wish I had a good answer to give you right now, but you're exactly right, and I appreciate it. You hit the nail on the head. This really is for the IRS and to not be dinged with smaller paperwork issues that we are constantly seeing being bogged down. It only costs more money. It's only frustrating for people who have to deal with it. It's frustrating for all of you. It's frustrating for the IRS. And so this will make it a lot more simple to go ahead and move forward in that aspect.
Well, thank you very much today. That was incredibly helpful. Any final thoughts from your end on the bill, on the crypto writ large that you'd like to share before we wrap?
Yeah, look, I really appreciate it. Please reach out to our office. My background in pursuing this in crypto really is to make sure that this policy works for all of you and it works for everyone in my state and people across the country. I'm not afraid to, say when I'm out of my depth on a certain issue. I don't think that, makes me any less than who I am. I think that actually makes me smart because I think there's a lot of smarter people in this room than myself. And so if any of you are out there with ideas or legislative ideas, or if you see something when we release our draft, don't hesitate to reach out. I genuinely mean it. I want to make sure that this can be as close to perfect as it possibly can, knowing it can never fully get to that point, right, on the first draft. But I have a lot of faith and confidence in myself and my team, but also in all of you. Because if it wasn't for all of you in industry educating me and my team on the issues, there's a good chance that I wouldn't be sitting here and we wouldn't be able to have an opportunity to lead one of the bigger bills in Congress when it comes to, taxation on crypto and getting out of the analog era and moving to the digital era. So really, if you're out there and, if there's something that, you think that you can add, which I know that you can, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself. I'm in Canon 143, and so is my LD over there, Nick Collins. But once again, thank you for your time this morning, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.